After breakfast with the kids, Secret Service agent Xavier heads to the president's house. However, no one answers when he knocks. Xavier enters anyway and finds President Cal dead on the floor. He checks the body, finds no pulse, and looks around for clues. There's a glass on the floor, 2 wine glasses, and a pair of earrings on the table, a trail of blood leading outside, and a cigarette nearby. The safe is also empty, and there's an X drawn on the cigarette pack, so he takes it. When Agent Jane calls to check in, Xavier tells her to lock down the residence and start an inspection. No questions asked. In the past, Cal told Xavier that his wife had voted for his opponent in the last election and admitted she might leave him if he lost his position. Cal said it wasn't the right time to have children, but refused to explain why. In the present, Xavier asks Agent Mike to show him yesterday's security footage. Cal followed his usual routine and met in the afternoon with Samantha, the richest woman in the world, known as Sinatra. Xavier remembers seeing them argue, but when he checked on them, Cal said everything was fine. That evening, Nicole, a high-ranking Secret Service agent and Cal's fling, visited him. Xavier notices she was wearing the same earrings he saw earlier. After she left, Cal drank with his father, Kane, who returned to the guest house at 9:30. Cal went to bed and locked his door around 10:04, making Xavier the last person to see him alive. When Mike points out that Xavier and Cal talked for a while, Xavier recalls the day reporters surrounded Cal, wanting him to comment on some incident in Colorado. Xavier noticed a man pulling a gun from a microphone and protected Cal just in time. While other agents tackled the shooter, Cal realized the bullet grazed his shoulder. Later, Xavier woke up in the hospital, and Cal told him the man had a 3D printed gun. Now, Xavier shows the body to fellow agent Billy and asks him to sweep the grounds for clues before calling anyone. Billy notes an open bottle of liquor and 2 plates in the kitchen, as well as several broken bushes in the garden. Meanwhile, Mike shows Xavier more camera footage. After Billy relieved Xavier, he goofed off and even took a nap. Mike also discovered that from 10:42 to 12:13, all surveillance cameras were disabled and stuck on the last frame. In the living room, Jane wants to know what's going on, and Billy tells her to stay calm. They'll figure this out. He secretly hands her something before Xavier interrupts, asking Jane to make an official call and declare a code red. Soon, Cal's estranged wife appears outside, demanding answers, but agents won't let her in. However, they do allow Samantha to enter. Kane also wants to know what happened to his son, and agents lead him into another room with Samantha. A moment later, Xavier is questioned by his superiors, and he insists it was just an ordinary night. Nicole wants to know what he and Cal discussed last night, and Xavier remembers that Cal had left the safe open. He took out a box and said he had news of the whole world in his hand. Xavier had been cold toward Cal, who asked if he'd ever forgive him for what happened. After telling the story of his dead wife, Xavier replied that he'd forgive Cal when he could sleep again, and he'd only be able to sleep when Cal was dead. In another past, Xavier had returned to work. After his injury, Cal, Samantha, and General Kirtley announced that Xavier had been chosen as one of the few who would be entrusted with top-secret national security information. The tablet inside the box contained data linked to a classified project related to the incident in Colorado. In the present, Xavier went for a run to clear his mind. The city functioned as usual. Everyone paid for things using wristbands, and a man was inspecting robotic ducks in a pond. A sign announced that sunrise had been delayed by 2 hours due to scheduled maintenance. It turned out that all of this was taking place inside a domed structure, where artificial light simulated the sun. A memory showed Kirtley telling Xavier that they were preparing for a massive disaster that could trigger an extinction-level event for humanity. Construction had already begun under the mountain in Colorado. In the present, Xavier looked at the cigarettes he took from Cal's room and found a string of mysterious numbers. In another past, 12 years earlier, Samantha had gathered the brightest minds in the country aboard a plane. She asked architect Anders to design an underground city that could withstand any catastrophe and house 25,000 people. But Anders said no one had the money for such a massive project. After landing, they were blindfolded and taken to a secret location. Anders was shocked to discover a dome under the mountain already in the early stages of construction. Samantha asked him again to build the city. In the present, Xavier spent the night dreaming he was on a plane, speaking with his wife, when an explosion erupted outside. In the morning, Nicole picked him up, and he asked for an update. They still had no suspect, no murder weapon, and were waiting on the DNA results. He didn't understand how she could lead the investigation given her affair with Cal, but Nicole said she had an alibi. Cal's tablet was missing, which had very important people upset, especially since this was the first murder in the history of the underground city. A few minutes later, Samantha met with the most powerful political figures, including Vice President Henry, to inform them that Cal had died of a heart attack. As everyone panicked, she remembered the day her son had a seizure outside a store. Samantha yelled at the group to stop and explained that the community would receive a warning about an emergency town hall. They would say the president died of natural causes and swear Henry in as president, just to keep everyone calm for now. Then, Xavier was called in for an interview and a lie detector test. Nicole asked him the standard questions, and Xavier answered everything without hesitation, even telling everyone about her affair with Cal. Soon, Nicole was replaced by a psychotherapist named Gabriella, who asked him if any part of him was happy, that Cal was dead, showing him a hand with "Say Yes" written on it. Since she had been their therapist, Xavier said yes. Then Gabriella informed Samantha that Xavier had told the truth about the murder, because if he had been capable of deceiving the machine, he wouldn't have admitted he was a little glad Cal was dead. Samantha remembers the time when the doctor announced that her son wouldn't survive, and he tried to get her to talk to Gabriella because she was a grief specialist. At first, she refused to see her, but eventually Gabriella's therapy helped her cope with the loss. In the present, she tells Gabriella that she might be right, before meeting with Xavier to inform him that he's being reassigned. She also asks him to take a leave and stay out of the case. When the city receives a warning about the town meeting, Xavier's daughter Presley notices that Cal's son Jeremy isn't leaving with the group to evacuate the school. She follows him to the library to ask why he's staying behind, and he explains that his father is dead. He ignored him yesterday, so their argument last week was the last time they spoke. Jeremy blamed his father for the deaths of so many people, and admits he told him he wished he were dead. In the past, Samantha and Cal attended an international financial summit. One man spoke about climate change, claiming a tsunami would flood the entire east coast of the US. After the talk, Samantha asked the man what they could do, and he told her to dig the biggest hole possible to hide in. At the town meeting, Henry reads a speech written by his team to deliver the news to everyone before taking the oath. After the ceremony, Xavier asks Billy if he can remember any important 6-digit codes, but Billy can't. Xavier also admits he's deeply suspicious of Samantha and promises to bring her down. Later, alone, Xavier burns the cigarette with the I code. Sometime later, Samantha and Nicole receive the autopsy results for Cal. The wound on his head indicates he was struck with a heavy object. There are signs that Cal tried to fight back, so they'll analyze DNA found under his fingernails. Afterward, both women go to the restroom, where they throw up. Xavier visits Gabriella to ask about the message on her hand during the interrogation, and she suggests going for a walk with him. Once they're far enough away, Gabriella confesses that her office might be bugged. She says she sat with Cal the day before he died and believes something happened because he seemed exhausted and depressed. He was drunk in her office wearing only a robe. When Xavier asks again about the message on her hand, Gabriella explains that if she agrees to share what she knows about Cal, she's taking a risk by trusting Xavier. She wants to know more about him before taking that risk, and Xavier agrees. While they walk, Gabriella reveals that she helped develop the city's psychological protocols. Then Xavier asks if Samantha can be trusted. Gabriella refuses to answer until she knows more about Xavier's relationship with his father. In the past, Xavier's father, Fred, with a trembling hand, tries to tell his son that it's nothing serious. But since Xavier insists, Fred admits he has Parkinson's. He's been managing the symptoms with medication, so he hasn't told the company yet. Since Fred was a pilot, Xavier warned him he could go to prison for that and urged him to retire. Fred ignored the advice and went on his next flight. In the present, they go to a diner where Gabriella's friend Maggie works. Xavier mentions that his wife was in another city and died because he didn't put her on the plane. Then he starts talking about his father's final flight. In the past, it's revealed that Xavier filled out the retirement paperwork for Fred to force him to step down. Their relationship deteriorated, and they only saw each other on holidays until Fred's death. Meanwhile, Nicole reflects on her time with Cal, though those memories are now clouded by his death. She then informs her team about the autopsy results, ignoring Billy when he says Xavier should be present too. The murder must have happened while the cameras were off, so Mike suggests trying to extract a digital footprint from the system. As Mike works, Jane speaks privately with Billy, pointing out that the digital trace might get them in trouble. They're interrupted by Agent Brooks, who reminds them that this part of the house is off limits. They hide behind a wall to share a kiss before parting ways. Moments later, they're summoned to the office, where Nicole and Samantha are waiting. Nicole asks why they disabled the cameras, and Jane insists that Billy should explain, but Billy says Nicole has no recordings to prove anything. When Nicole points out that they've been shutting off the cameras at night for months, Jane finally cracks. It turns out she and Billy were extremely bored because nothing was happening, so they disabled the cameras to play video games and eat Cal's food without the higher-ups knowing. That evening, Xavier walks Gabriella home and asks her about the numbers on the cigarette, but she doesn't recognize them. She explains that she was responsible for selecting every citizen for the dome, and she's the one who recommended Xavier to Cal. When Xavier asks again about the message on her hand, Gabriella kisses him, and he replies that he's married. But they end up doing it anyway. In the middle of it, Gabriella says she has a message from the president. Cal told her to find Xavier if anything ever happened to him, and that Billy is dangerous. Meanwhile, Billy is watching Presley from a distance. In the past, a young Billy went hunting with his uncle, who used to hit him when he made mistakes, and taught him never to hesitate. One day the man told Billy to shoot his dog, but Billy shot his uncle instead. He ended up in juvenile detention, where he had to fight off violent kids. When he got out, he was taken under the wing of a mercenary, who recruited him into his crew. During initiation, Billy beat up a much bigger guy to prove his skills. After leaving Gabriella's place, Xavier sends Billy a message saying they need to talk. Seeing a car nearby, he recalls the day he arrived in the city with his kids. A guard at the checkpoint took his gun and deleted Xavier's wife from the system after realizing she hadn't made it onto the plane. Everyone was panicking over losing their loved ones, but Cal just drove past in his private transport, ignoring the distraught citizens. A week later, Billy and Xavier were guarding a bar for the president. The owner, Mark, said he got the job because his wife had been one of the leading atmospheric scientists in the world. Billy had a drink, but Xavier declined because they were on duty. In the present, Xavier parks near Billy's house and watches him from a distance. Billy finally replies to his message, saying he's already at work. After that, Xavier heads to the office and checks Billy's file, only to find much of it blacked out. At that moment, Jane walks in, and Xavier asks her if Billy's been acting differently. Jane admits Billy's been distracted lately, which is odd because today's the carnival, and Billy usually loves it. Xavier recalls that 2 months after their arrival, Billy once told him he wouldn't be sitting next to him if he knew what he'd done. After finishing with the file, Xavier notices Nicole seeing him leave the office. At the carnival, Nicole finds Billy and warns him that Xavier suspects Samantha, then forces him to leave with her. Xavier also comes to the carnival with his son, James, and when he sees Gabriella nearby, he tries to avoid her. He also notices Samantha talking to Billy and Nicole, and they notice him too. A minute later, Billy finds Presley playing alone and gives her some advice on how to tell Jeremy she likes him. By evening, James still hasn't gone on the Ferris wheel because he's scared, but he wants to. At that moment, Gabriella approaches and tells Xavier where Billy is. She offers to keep an eye on James while he looks for him. Another memory shows Xavier and Billy talking to Cal, telling him people couldn't relax in this town because not knowing about the survivors outside haunted them. Later, during a speech, Cal announced they would send 4 researchers into the unknown to assess the situation. In the present, Billy warns Xavier that he needs to stop poking around because these people are dangerous. Xavier asks why he lied that morning, and Billy explains that Jane was with him and he didn't want Xavier to know they were together. Then Xavier asks Billy if he killed Cal, and Billy gets offended, saying he's just been watching Xavier's kids to protect them, because that's the only thing he cares about in this place. When Xavier returns to Gabriella, he tells her it's not Billy. Another flashback reveals that Mark's wife and the rest of the research team died during the mission. The official version said it was due to harsh external conditions, but in reality, Billy killed the woman when she tried to tell him there was life outside and the air was breathable. In the present, Billy goes to Samantha to vent. He was supposed to start a new life here, but she made him kill again. Samantha claims that the survivors outside are probably tearing each other apart over resources, so they made a hard but necessary choice to protect their town. Billy then asks her to leave Xavier and his family alone, but Samantha reminds him that he doesn't give orders. She also threatens to take Jane away if he keeps pushing, mentioning that he's not the only killer she brought here. After that, Billy visits Xavier and says he didn't kill the president, but he did do some things that might be connected to it. He believes Samantha killed Cal and promises to share everything he did tomorrow, but tonight, he just wants to play with the kids. When Billy returns home, he accepts a drink from Jane and suddenly collapses to the floor. Jane then puts on gloves and starts planting evidence to make it look like an overdose, explaining that she's the one Samantha sent to take care of him. A new memory shows a young Cal telling Kane he wants to leave the family business to become a teacher. But Kane forbids it and forces him into politics. In the present, Jeremy gets drunk before his father's funeral. Meanwhile, Xavier finds James playing with a dog that belongs to their neighbor, Carl. Xavier scolds Carl for being careless, reminding him that pets are forbidden under the dome. During the funeral, Jeremy speaks about his father and mentions how bad things were in his final days. A flashback shows Cal trying to spend time with his son, but Jeremy wasn't interested. The boy was also tired of dealing with Kane, whose dementia made him harsh and sometimes aggressive. Jeremy was upset because Cal saw what was coming but never resisted, and then buried his guilt in alcohol. He even told his father he wished he had died with the rest of the world. After the funeral, Xavier asks Jane about Billy because he's not answering his messages, but she claims she hasn't heard from him either. Then Nicole approaches Xavier and reveals that the DNA samples from the crime scene never made it to the lab. She thinks Samantha is the only one who could have interfered, but Xavier admits she won't trust Nicole because of her affair with the victim. In the past, Nicole told Cal she was short on weapons since they were banned under the dome. But Cal made a comment implying he had something stashed. In the present, Xavier and Jane go to look for Billy. When no one answers the door, Xavier breaks it down and, devastated, finds Billy dead on the floor. Jane also pretends to be shaken, even as other agents arrive to take the body away. In me. Another moment from the past, Cal checked a tablet and found a file named First Transmission, June 23rd, but he wasn't authorized to open it. Since Kane was asleep, Cal placed his hand on the tablet and managed to unlock the file. It was a video from a scouting team, stating that there was nothing left outside and the radiation levels were extremely high. There was also an audio file from the group, revealing that they had found a woman and were arguing about whether or not to bring her back. In another recording, Billy called Samantha to report that the team was bringing a survivor into the dome, and Samantha ordered him to kill them all. Cal wrote down all the important information in his notebook, then went to the library to learn how to make a mixtape. After creating a special CD for Jeremy, he visited Gabriella and told her that Xavier was the only one he truly trusted. He also wrote Billy's name on his hand, saying that this was the person to look for if something ever happened to him. Back at home, Cal began cooking for his son and sent him a message, saying that he was working on something that might interest him, because it's never too late to fight back. Later, when Samantha came to visit him, Cal told her that he knew what she had done. He wanted to tell the truth to the dome's community, but Samantha warned that doing so would destroy their lives. This led to an argument that Xavier witnessed. In the present, Jeremy keeps drinking and tells Presley that he didn't go to the special dinner. Presley comforts him, and the two teens almost kiss, until they're interrupted by Kane, who yells until Presley leaves. Meanwhile, Nicole informs Xavier that Billy died from a drug overdose. The dosage was far too high for recreational use, so the doctor believes Billy took his own life. Xavier says Billy tried to warn him about Samantha, and they both agree she's behind it, so she has to be stopped. Nicole confesses that she knows how to get a weapon for the job. A new memory reveals that Cal was saddened Jeremy didn't show up for dinner, so he invited Nicole instead. They went to his room, and Nicole took off her earrings, saying she didn't want any more of his trinkets. She announced that she couldn't do this anymore and tried to leave. Desperate, Cal told her that he would soon divorce his wife and even shared how to access a weapon so they could go shooting together. Still, that wasn't enough for Nicole, who finally walked out. After that, Cal spoke with Kane, pointing out that he had done everything his father ever asked, and now he wanted to know if Kane was proud of him. But Kane said that all of Cal's accomplishments were thanks to him. Disappointed, Cal returned to his room and wrote a code on a cigarette. In the present, Xavier tells his children about Billy's death and asks them to pack a bag. Then he turns to Carl and asks for a favor. Meanwhile, Jeremy yells at Kane for scaring Presley off. Kane doesn't remember what happened and thinks he's talking to his own son. He apologizes for that night and says he's proud of Cal. Jeremy feels guilty and tells him, "I forgive you for everything, Dad." After Jeremy's departure, Kane recalls seeing Presley the night of the murder. At the same time, Presley is packing a bag and pulls Cal's tablet from under the mattress. At night, Carl goes to his office and makes changes to the weather control program. Xavier notices a new streetlight on his street and realizes that Samantha is using it to spy on him. At this moment, a message appears in the sky. "They are lying to you." Soon, people gather in the streets, pointing at the words and pondering their meaning. Carl and his dog head to Mark's pub to hide, and Xavier's children are also hiding there. However, Presley gets tired of waiting and decides to leave. Samantha rushes to the weather control office and learns that they can't remove the message because whoever did it blocked them from the system. She then meets Gabriella and tells her that it was Xavier who did it, revealing that she knows about their intimate night. Gabriella is upset that her privacy was violated, but Samantha just forces her to talk to Xavier to gather information. With no other choice, Gabriella finds Xavier at a diner and tries to convince him that Samantha isn't a monster. She's just trying to protect the city. Meanwhile, Nicole manages to find the weapon Cal had mentioned and takes everything with the help of her trusted agent, Melvin. She then sends Xavier a message saying that Phase 1 is complete, so they can move to Phase 2. Seeing this, Xavier removes his bracelet and leaves the diner. Now, Samantha's entire team is searching for Xavier and his children, who have also removed their bracelets, making them untraceable. The system shows that Nicole and Melvin used their bracelets to access a specific basement area before removing them as well. Samantha realizes they have weapons and sends security to protect her family. In the basement, agents find a mocking note from Nicole in an empty weapon box. Soon, the message in the sky changes to, "Want to know the truth?" Samantha tells Jane to find and kill Xavier, so Jane pulls out a hidden gun from her house. A minute later, Xavier meets with Nicole to deal with the weapons. They also meet with several trusted agents, including Mike and Brooks. Everyone has already removed their bracelets, and Brooks tells Xavier that people are hunting him. Xavier replies that Samantha has fallen for the trap. He tells everyone that Samantha and her billionaire friends are behind all of this, and that he has a plan to expose all her lies to the world. A memory shows how Xavier gave Cal a tour of the White House and explained emergency protocols. Cal had asked him to do this, so Xavier wanted to know what was going on, but Cal just said it was time for Xavier to convince his wife to go to Atlanta. When Xavier explained that his wife never listened to him, Cal promised to take her. He also confessed that he would be the one in charge when the world ends. Meanwhile, Presley finds Jeremy in the library and tells him that she has the tablet. She explains that she often visited Cal to play video games with Billy and found the tablet in the bushes. Presley took it because she thought it might tell her what happened to her mother, but she couldn't turn it on. Jeremy agrees to help and takes her home, unaware that Jane is tracking him. While they are talking to Kane about the tablet, Presley notices his bookmark and remembers seeing the same floral pattern on a jacket the night of the murder. Kane unlocks the tablet, and Presley discovers that 2 thermonuclear weapons hit Atlanta. In a plane hangar, Xavier tells the team that they won't actually blow anything up. They'll just make Samantha think they did. The message in the sky changes to, "Who is Sinatra?" with a countdown underneath. People continue to gather in the streets, and at that moment Xavier launches fireworks toward the tower where Samantha and her team are. Frightened, Samantha asks her people to shut the system down. The city is plunged into darkness, except for emergency lights, and locals panic as a computer voice tells them to go home. Samantha and her team evacuate, and on the way, Gabriella sees a crowd of angry protesters. Soon, Jeremy and Presley appear in the middle of the street to tell the crowd that the messages in the sky are true. The government has been lying to them. While Jeremy speaks, Jane approaches Presley and convinces her to go to a secluded spot to talk about Billy. Xavier's group is waiting in a safe house where government officials and their families are being sent. However, Samantha's car turns around at the last second. Telling the others to secure the safe house, Xavier goes after the car. Agents sneak into the bunker and begin the takeover, while Xavier continues the chase and encounters Gabriella. She admits that she warned Samantha and wants the city to hold on. When the power returns, Xavier breaks into the house and finds Samantha, who admits she killed Billy but denies killing Cal. She also tells him that his wife is alive out there and could help him find her. Xavier recalls the night before the tragedy and how he tried to convince his wife, Terry, not to go to Atlanta, but she went anyway. Samantha continues talking, explaining what really happened to the research team, and plays audio files confirming that there are survivors outside. When Xavier points out that Terry couldn't have survived because she was close to the explosion, Samantha says that Cal did something he doesn't know about. A memory shows an old news broadcast. The host announced that a supervolcano erupted beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, and large sections of the ice shelf melted, causing a tsunami that moved north at high speed. Xavier tried to send Terry a message, but his messages weren't delivered. Henry burst into the meeting room to announce that Russia had completely cut off communication, China was moving troops, and all coastal cities like Melbourne and Buenos Aires had already disappeared. The United States would lose Florida in 2 hours, so Cal had no choice but to authorize the evacuation to the dome. Xavier received a message from Terry saying she was in Atlanta because all flights had been canceled. On TV, a reporter narrowly escaped injury when a high-pressure sound wave struck the area behind her. The second wave came and actually hit her, leaving her bleeding. As she turned around, she saw the tsunami engulfing the city. Xavier asked Cal to help his family, so Cal promised that his children would be taken with his son and told him to talk to Curtly about Terry. Then, Xavier asked Curtly for the favor and learned that Terry had 1 hour to reach the air reserve base for evacuation. He checked the map and noticed that Terry was too far from that location. While Cal recorded a hopeful message for all Americans, Xavier asked Mike to help find a faster route for his wife. His messages still weren't going through, but fortunately, Terry called him and he told her about the new route and told her to hijack a car if necessary. After Cal finished his speech, he was informed that Russia and China were exchanging fire and preparing for nuclear strikes. Soon, an earthquake hit California, leaving it in ruins. A scientist appeared on TV, explaining that it was caused by climate change, so people were to blame. Nicole and her team tried to evacuate the president, but upon seeing a janitor in the hallway, Cal changed his mind about the speech. He wanted to tell the people the truth so they could say goodbye to their families. Xavier organized other agents to guard all the doors to the Oval Office while the president gave his live address. Cal offered sad but sincere words as he told his country about the impending global catastrophe, causing everyone in the room to cry. After the speech, Cal apologized to all of his staff, but they weren't pleased with the lies. Xavier received a call from Terry but dropped the phone when people started panicking. When a man tried to steal a gun from the guards, the agent had to shoot him. As everyone retreated in fear, Xavier picked up the phone and saw a missed call. After that, the Secret Service escorted Cal to the elevator, hearing the guards opening fire in the hallway. Xavier handed Cal his bulletproof vest before leaving the White House to rush to the helicopter. Hundreds of protesters were being held back by guards, and several people were shot, so Xavier had to run back to grab the briefcase with the nuclear codes. As he was about to board the helicopter, a colleague begged to come along, threatening him with a gun. Suddenly, Nicole shot the man in the head and reminded Xavier to do his job. She stayed behind to hold off the protesters while the helicopter successfully took off. After landing, Xavier received a message from Presley saying that her mother wasn't there. Xavier tried unsuccessfully to reach Terry. He wanted to do something, but Cal told him it was pointless, making Xavier realize that the president always knew she wouldn't make it. An argument started, as Xavier blamed Cal for not telling him the truth earlier. When birds appeared in the sky, flying wildly, other agents reminded them to move, and Xavier rushed to the plane to reunite with his children. A few minutes later, passengers were told to prepare because they were about to encounter high pressure, sound waves. Xavier's plane shook for a while and it kept flying, but another plane crashed to the ground. Cal apologized to Xavier and gave him a satellite phone to contact his wife. Then Cal was called to the office, where he learned that all the judges in Congress had died in the disaster. 2 nuclear devices had been launched, and they believed one was aimed at Colorado. Kirtley revealed that their plane had also been damaged, so they had to land in St. Louis. The team wanted to launch their nuclear missiles in retaliation to protect their domes, but Cal wanted to think about it. When Samantha came to check on Cal, he shared a little secret that only the president knew. After the Cuban Missile Crisis of the 60s, the colonel proposed creating a final insurance policy. It was a linked network of global EM pulses and satellites that could burn out all electronic circuits on Earth and disable nuclear weapons. He could shut down the world, but it would set the planet back 500 years, which was still a better alternative than a nuclear apocalypse. Samantha warned him that these people would die anyway, so it would be more humane to use the regular nuclear codes, not to mention that this would leave the dome without communication with the outside world as well. Cal thought the people deserved a chance and asked Agent Melvin to escort Samantha out of his office. Xavier managed to contact Terry, who wanted him to tell the children that they could still be happy. At that moment, Cal activated the EMP code, and Xavier saw a bright explosion before the conversation ended. While Xavier thought the nuclear missiles had reached Atlanta, Cal had actually stopped them. In the present, Samantha finishes telling this story to Xavier and says that the people outside are recovering. They even built a few radio stations, so Samantha's system picked up some of their broadcasts. The audio file contains Terry's voice asking about her family, so Xavier shoots the floor to force Samantha to tell him how to find Terry. Instead, Samantha calls Mark and hands the phone to Xavier, who learns that Presley is missing. Then Samantha reveals that the DNA from Cal's murder doesn't match anyone in the bunker, meaning the killer was a survivor who sneaked inside. She wants her people released, her weapons returned, and Xavier to figure out who really killed Cal, or he will never see his daughter again. Another memory, 12 years ago, shows the team working hard on constructing the underground city. The team leader, Trent, noticed that some of his colleagues were having breathing issues and later met with Anders about arsenic residue in the tunnels that was causing sickness. Trent wanted to stop the project, but Anders refused and instead sent everyone home promising to look into it. The next day, Trent found out he had been fired, and Anders would make everyone work in masks. Trent wanted to know what the city was really for, and Anders told him not to get involved with the influential people because they knew something big was coming. After that, Trent began researching the coming disaster, but no one was talking about it online. He also kept trying to call his friends from the work team without success. Using a 3D printer, Trent made his own gun, and it was his bullet that injured Xavier that day. In the present, Xavier agrees to Samantha's demands and rushes to tell Nicole to cancel the operation because they still don't know who killed Cal. Henry appears on television to tell everyone that the incident is over and everyone can relax because the system is working fine. But he also acknowledges that Cal was killed. Jeremy is still reading the contents of the tablet on the street. Later, Samantha calls Jane to discuss how to deal with Presley, who knows too much. Samantha doesn't want to harm the girl yet, but Jane suddenly asks for Cal's collection of video games and hangs up when Samantha calls her crazy. A minute later, Samantha gets a message from Jane that the problem is solved. Meanwhile, Xavier returns to Cal's room and finds the mixtape Cal made for Jeremy. He plays it and hears a message from Cal saying that he hid something in the library. Xavier hurries there and sees a jacket with a flower on the back. All the books are numbered, and Xavier searches for the code on a cigarette until he finds a book with all of Cal's notes on the tablet. At the same time, Nicole visits Gabriella to ask for the psychological tests that everyone underwent during settlement. Gabriella doesn't want to violate confidentiality, but Nicole threatens her, forcing her to cooperate. As she reviews the list, Gabriella finds a file with a serious issue. She goes to the diner and pretends to be friendly with Maggie as usual, only for Nicole to catch her off guard. It turns out that this is not the real Maggie, and she explains that Trent forced her to do it, while in the library, Trent knocks out Xavier. Another memory shows Trent in prison after the shooting. He kept trying to call his friends, and one finally answered to tell him to stop calling. Trent told him it was fate that he was in prison so close to the construction site, so he would be nearby when the time came. His friend informed him that he was dying before hanging up. Later, when the prisoners learned about the coming tsunami, they rioted and began killing police officers. Trent seized the opportunity to steal a police uniform and wandered down the road where numerous cars were trying to drive into the dome. He found the real Maggie and her husband, who had been selected for the bunker. Trent pretended to know an alternate route to get them out of the car, and once they were alone, he shot both of them to steal their IDs. Afterward, Trent changed his appearance to match the dead guy at the gas station. On his way out, he found a crying woman in the parking lot and convinced her to become Maggie. When they reached the checkpoint, the guard asked for a bracelet, so Trent simulated a panic attack. Since their photos matched the system, they were allowed through so as not to block the line. For years, Trent worked comfortably in the library, but when Cal came asking about the mixtapes, Trent knew he had to finish what he started, the night of the murder. After Xavier left, Cal went out to the balcony to continue reading the tablet files. Trent surprised him from behind and knocked him out with a relic from the library. He then dragged the body back inside, but upon seeing all the blood, he began to doubt his actions. While Trent dealt with his existential crisis, Cal marked his cigarette pack with an X using his own blood. Terrified, Trent noticed that the president was still alive and hit him again, killing him for good this time. In the present, Trent finishes telling this story to Xavier, asking him to tell everyone who did it and why. Then Trent leaves with Cal's book, and Xavier is left tied to the column. A minute later, Nicole appears and frees him, so now both can pursue Trent. After a long chase, they find him at the mountain station, where Trent says the system has turned this place into a prison. He calls it all a farce before jumping to end it himself. Afterward, Xavier goes to tell Samantha who killed Cal and asks about Presley. Samantha apologizes, saying she never wanted Presley to be harmed. Xavier loses control and shoots all the guards in the room. Then he prepares to kill Samantha, but Jane shoots her first, revealing that Presley is actually fine. After Xavier leaves, Jane explains to Samantha that she shot her in a non-lethal spot to save her from Xavier, who would have shot her in the head. She says Samantha isn't needed dead, and that she's in for a long recovery, pointing out that none of this would have happened if Samantha had let her take the wee a few minutes. Later, Xavier finally meets with the children, confirming that Carl and his dog are also fine. Nicole took the book from Trent's body and tells Xavier that they need to bring the truth to light. Jeremy finally listens to the mixtape, while various locals show their support for him. Henry has to calm down all the politicians who are panicking over the loss of Samantha, while Jane plays Wii at home. Presley tells Xavier that they need to know if Terry is alive, so Nicole agrees to watch his children while Xavier leaves the dome to see what's out there. He finds a plane in the hangar and looks at a note from Cal with coordinates. He then starts the engine of the plane.